It's Charles again, continuing with part two, essentially, of my analysis of the Black Dahlia. But this time I'm just going to review the film. I think it's important to review some of the more obscure Brian De Palma films, the ones that were misunderstood. Probably not going to review The Untouchables or Carrie or Mission Impossible or Scarface. But Black Dahlia is worth talking about, not just because of the mysteries, but it is one of James Ellroy's quartet of novels set in L.A., sort of a film noir set in 1947, and kind of based on the actual murder of Elizabeth Short, but really a fictional account of an investigation around it. And what people should understand is she's very important to the film and to the story, but really the story is about Bucky Bleichart, the one of the investigators of the case, and really his relationship with his partner, his relationship with his partner's live-in girlfriend Kay, and a romantic relationship with another character, Madeline. It's really it's really about Bucky, played by Josh Hartnett, and in the process of the film, ultimately he has to investigate the case of Elizabeth Short's murder, and that leads him into all sorts of directions. Many, I think, criticize that the movie isn't more about Elizabeth Short or more focused, laser focused on the case, but that's not actually what the movie is about. What's most important in the story is Bucky and his relationships. And once you understand that, and once you also kind of get past a couple of the minor confusing bits, this movie is really, really well made, really well paced, and it's only 2 hours and 2 minutes long with a lot of dense subplots and characters, and it's quite a brilliant piece of filmmaking on behalf of Brian De Palma. It's grittier looking than L.A. Confidential, which of course also is a James Ellroy adaptation. One of the issues is people want to compare this to L.A. Confidential. L.A. Confidential was set much later in the 50s. It's kind of glitzy and glamorous. It's, both are in a way about Hollywood, but L.A. Confidential is more of the glitzy side. The Black Dahlia is seedier, darker. You know, it takes detectives in sort of seedy alleyways and clubs, and there's a grit to this one that should be there in the Black Dahlia that shouldn't be in LA Confidential, and it even has kind of an interesting look to it, by the cinematographer, um, Vilmos Zsigmond, who was nominated for an Oscar for his work on the Black Dahlia. Actually, all the production values received some sort of accolade. The costume designs received an accolade of some kind from, I don't know, some international film entity. The editing received accolades. The score by Mark Isham received accolades. What else? Oh, the production designs also. And this was a movie filmed in Bulgaria so that they could save money. And Brian De Palma was able to recreate Bulgaria or recreate LA, a seedier sort of side of LA, in Bulgaria. And not unusual for him. He's been able to recreate, Miami and Scarface, recreate Vietnam, recreate Iraq in other films. So he's very good at that. So um, it's like I say, it can be a complex plot, but all the information is there. And sometimes it's just a matter of watching it multiple times, or you could do what I did, which was put the subtitles on and take some notes. I almost had to play detective myself. But once I did that, just one time, things started to fall into place, and it became a much more interesting, much more entertaining film because the first two times I watched The Black Dahlia, I didn't know what to make of it. Frankly, it was disappointing. Now I think it's a great film. I give it 4 out of 4 stars. It's in my A tier. And look, the acting I think is terrific. Josh Hartnett is gives a sort of a Gary Cooper presence. I've mentioned before, I think that Scarlett Johansson is very much like your blonde bombshell, um, teetering on femme fatale and good girl. She's somewhere in between, but kind of a Lana Turner, like a voluptuous Lana Turner. And Aaron Eckhart and Brian De Palma said this. He has kind of a Kirk Douglas quality. Uh, and De Palma should know he's worked with Kirk Douglas twice. So and and Hilary Swank just kind of any '40s femme fatale, um, from the movie The Killers. I forget the name of the actress, but or you know, Double Indemnity, you name it. That's basically what she embodies. I go into much more detail about these characters in the first video of this. So, yeah, the costumes look great. The set design's fantastic. The music is very sort of mournful. Again, the music in LA Confidential is very upbeat. The music in the Black Dahlia, for the most part, is very sort of subdued and kind of mournful because there's some sadness to this film. And of course, Mia Kirshner as Betty Short, as I say, she's terrific in it. There was an ingenious idea by Brian De Palma and the screenwriter Josh Friedman to incorporate scenes that were, in fact, screen tests of Betty Short. Now, these aren't based on anything they really saw. This is just all of this is fictionalized, but the scenes involve kind of a audition process between her and Brian De Palma, who's the voice of a kind of a seedy casting director, and there's about 3 or 4 scenes where they're together, and essentially what it is it allows us to get to know the victim, Betty Short, in a kind of a personal way. It's wonderful, just a brilliant idea to add these scenes because from what I hear initially, the original script didn't even have those scenes, so she was going to have an even smaller role than ultimately what we see now. But she's terrific, and so look, there's a lot of twists and turns as you would expect in a James Ellroy novel and a Brian De Palma film. Uh, but what I can tell you is, even though there's a lot fit into the 2 hour and 2 minute version, once you understand what's going on, I can't imagine what they could add to it. There's a rumor out there that this movie initially was 3 hours long. That James Ellroy saw the 3 hour cut and loved it, and supposedly the studio, Universal, had them cut it to 2 hours. Not true. That's not true. I don't, and I base this on 2 interviews, one from Brian De Palma and one from Mark Isham. Mark Isham said that the movie he scored was basically the movie that came out. Certainly wasn't a 3 hour movie. And Brian De Palma himself in an interview said that the original script he got was a 2 hour and 20 minute film. And before he even started filming, it was 2 hours and about 10. And while they were filming, ultimately, they trimmed it down to 2 hours and 2 minutes. Not because they had to, but because really there was no reason to include some of those scenes. And he goes into detail as to which scenes he cut. So So there was no 3 hour version. And when I watch it, I realized I wouldn't necessarily want it to be 3 hours. Everything you need to see is in the film, and nothing actually feels rushed. I know it feels that way at first when you watch it a couple times, but I'm telling you, once you understand what's happening, nothing feels rushed. In fact, there's a lot of scenes that De Palma really allows to breathe. And there's some great set pieces, some traditional Brian De Palma set pieces. The initial discovery of Betty Short's body includes a long tracking shot from Brian De Palma that incorporates both the discovery of the body as well as the beginnings of a shootout that's about to happen. And it's a great set piece from De Palma. Another set piece is near the climax. There's a moment with a spiral staircase and some suspense, some slow motion suspense. That's again traditional Brian De Palma. Still, absolutely, in my opinion, at the peak of his talents. And also, there's a great boxing match scene in early on in the film. And I don't know why, but for some reason it was a surprise to see how, you know, good Brian De Palma was at filming a boxing match. You just think of action directors maybe doing that, but Brian De Palma really does a great job. It's one of the best boxing matches I've seen on film between Bucky and Lee Blanchard, who would become his detective partner. They're both former boxers, and early on in the film, it's established that they're going to put together this boxing match as kind of a promotion for the LAPD and sort of for charity and whatnot. But it kind of gets the proceedings going. So it's a great scene, very well filmed, and there's a dinner party sequence in the film that out of nowhere is just kind of hilarious. It's awkward. It's a little bit of comedy, if you will, for what's otherwise a pretty dark film. And like I say, through it all, it's Josh Hartnett's character who's the lead, and he does your sort of film noir narration, and he's perfect. Some people have said that he's miscast. I don't understand that. He looks the part, and he sounds the part. It's great narration, and the narration really gives you a lot of the Ellroy language from the book, and yeah, I think he's terrific. They're all terrific. They all do what they're supposed to do, and it's frankly with the set pieces, with the inspired scenes like the Dahlia's audition, with the boxing match, with all of these great set pieces, the costumes, the production design, and the pacing is just absolutely perfect. Again, once you understand what's happening, once you clear up some of the confusing bits, you realize the pacing couldn't have been better. The editing received accolades too, and there's a reason why. It's actually able to put all of this stuff in a 2 hour and 2 minute film, and it's brilliant. I've said this before, and I'm not ashamed to say, despite the fact that this movie didn't do so well, and a lot of the critics panned it, this is one of the best directing jobs Brian De Palma has ever done. And Brian De Palma is my favorite director, so I don't say that lightly. And I hope it's one of those De Palma movies that gets more appreciated over time. But if anybody's watching this, I would ask you to take a chance on the film, and you probably would want to watch it more than once, and see if it gets better. And aside from that, I want to thank you for viewing this video, and I hope you have a great day.